Hello, everyone. Dr. Yonit Arthur here. You are on the Steady Coach, and I am thrilled today to bring you this wonderful success story from Mark. And Mark is one of my own personal clients, so it is a special privilege to have this conversation with him. Mark's story begins in 2021. He's been suffering from PPPD. He's gone through every medical test known to man, has spent all sorts of money on expensive therapies. But in mid 2022, he found my channel and things started to change. He joined my group coaching. We started working together one-on-one. And today, Mark is back to boxing. He's back to working out. He's almost fully recovered at this point. And in this interview, he's going to share more about his experience, what he's done so far, what we're working on. And we're going to prepare you today for the upcoming part 2 of his interview, which we plan to record in a few months. So please enjoy this interview. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below. If you enjoy my channel or my podcast, please like, please share, please subscribe, please rate it if you're listening to this on a podcasting platform. All of those things help me reach more people. And please enjoy this interview with Mark. All right, Mark. Hello. Welcome.
Hi, Dr. Yo. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing great.
It's a pleasure to finally be here.
I know. You've been talking about this since literally the day we met.
I did. And you remember what I told you?
You said, I'm going to be one of your success stories.
For sure. And I said it was going to be before the summer.
And here we are.
Thank you to you. Thank you to you. Well, I'll be honest. I'm excited. I can't wait. I've seen how some of these videos go.
Yes.
I'm like, I know for a fact I have my notes here. I know how the conversation is going to go. So I'm excited. Let's dive right in.
Let's go. Okay. Well, before you share all your amazing successes, we're going to have to get to the not so pretty stuff. But before we do that, can you give people some context? Like who are you? Who's Mark?
So Mark, I'm 34. I have 2 kids, married, been with my wife for about 15 years. And I got to be honest with you, I was living probably the most perfect life that I thought was going exactly the way that I planned. I did what I wanted, when I wanted, as long as I wanted, right? I felt like everything that I needed was in place and successfully in order to live out the perfect life. Ideal, right? I was physically fit. I was doing boxing sessions 5 days a week. I was at the gym 5 days a week, and I felt like I was invincible. And little did I know, control turned out to be an illusion. And I was the kind of person where I took my success based on how I was physically doing. So stamina to me was big. I would wake up in the morning. First thing I would do is get dressed, drop off the kids, and head straight to the boxing gym. I mean, I judged my success based on how many pounds of sweat I was able to get out at the gym. And it was incredible. It was incredible. But little did I know, something was brewing in the background where it looked perfect from the outside looking in, but internally it got to the point where my life is like, well, I'm going to give you little bits and pieces of information, pick up on it. They're going to be negotiable. But if you don't pick up on it, I'm going to get it to the point where it becomes non-negotiable. And then I have your undivided attention. And I feel as though that's where I let it go. I felt like I've got my life to the point where I thought I was on autopilot, but the amount of overwhelming stress that I was enduring and putting in the back burner, it turned out to backfire. And plus, aside from that, I was building a house. I own multiple companies. I have 40 employees. I do a lot. But I never considered it to be stressful. I just thought that it was normal. It was normal. Like, this is what people do. But I'm also very sensitive because I am a health freak. I'm very conscious. So whenever something will pop up, I'm like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? Right. And if I don't have an answer for it, it would linger on for little bits and pieces until I finally got an answer, or enough time has passed where I forgot about it.
Yeah. So you're saying that all of this was brewing and it started to give you little signs that something big was coming. So what did that look like? Tell me about the signs.
So I literally have it written down to the dates. October 31st was the first time in October 31st of 2021.
Mhm.
So October 21st of 2021, I remember like it was yesterday because it was um, Halloween. We were trick-or-treating with the kids. I know
Mhm.
exactly where I was. We were
Mhm.
trick-or-treating and I felt something was off because my eyes visually couldn't process all of the information. I didn't think much of it because it felt weird, but I chalked it off. And then as time moved on, all the movement, everything, the lights, the cars, I felt a little lightheaded. So
Mhm.
that was the first time in my entire life I've experienced lightheaded. I mean, sure, you can get up real quick, you can feel lightheaded, but
Mhm.
this one was different. This one persisted for about 10, 15 minutes. I didn't think much of it. I sat in the car, out of sight, out of mind. Boom, the next day, or even 20 minutes later, back to normal. So I didn't
Mhm.
really think much of it. It happened, maybe blood sugar or you're tired, it can happen. Then the next one was sometime probably the second or third week of November that same year. So about 3 weeks later,
Mhm.
I was in the mall. And again, I felt that visual sensation. It's hard to describe. It's as though my eyes couldn't process all the information. So then I felt a little lightheaded as well. Didn't think much of it, really. I honestly didn't. I chalked it off. I was like one of those things. Hey, it happens. It
Mhm.
happens. You go to the boxing gym, you check yourself out twice a year. You're at the gym. If anything was going to happen, it would happen there, not here. Because I'm
Mhm.
not stressed. It would be exactly where you are at the peak point of stress at the gym. And
Mhm.
then another time was when I was sitting with a couple of friends at my house. This was probably towards the middle of December that same year. And it felt as though I had tunnel vision, right? It felt like the peripheral vision of my eyes had went and gone. It's as though I saw only forward. So if you were waving this here and I'm looking straight at you, I wouldn't be able to see this hand. I
Mhm.
got scared, really, really, really uncomfortable feeling. But we were kind of drinking probably 2 or 3 glasses of wine. I had a couple of friends who happened to be doctors. Don't worry about it. You're fine. We go outside, get some fresh air. No problem. That goes away. Then
Mhm.
fast forward to January 4th. That's what I call the Big Bang. I've given it the name. Wake up, ordinary day, nothing special about it. January 4th, I get ready for the boxing gym. I drop off my oldest one. I drive 5 minutes away. I drop off my younger one. I get in the car. And as soon as I begin to drive, no more than 2 seconds later, my body begins to go numb. It's as though I am about to pass out. I am not in control of my body. And it felt as though I was just going to collapse, shut down, and shut off. It was not a lightheaded feeling. It was a feeling as though I had no control of my body.
Mhm.
And it was absolutely scary. It was as scary as can be. It was terrifying because it was one of those times where you truly realize that you don't really have control. It was an illusion, right? You look at me and you say, he does all that. And then this happens. Come on, come
Mm.
on,
That's a big
come
topic
on.
that you and I have worked on.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I judge myself based on how much more I can do today than I did yesterday physically.
Mhm.
And I want to say I felt like it got to the point where it was too much, although I wasn't allowing myself to recover.
Mhm.
And then from that point, when I felt numb, it went away probably maybe 5 seconds later, but it felt like the longest 5 seconds of my life. Um, Everything was fine. Everything was fine until January 16th,
And this is
which happened
2022, just so for people.
2022.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is 2022 of January 16th.
Mhm.
Regular day. As soon as I step out of the shower, the lightheadedness hits me. Automatically, I assume, okay, great, it's going to go away. It's not going away. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour. What do I do when it's that long? Dr. Google. Dr. Google. Automatically, stroke, heart attack, seizures, right? All these things begin to
Mm.
pop up in my head. And I'm like,
Mhm.
there's no way. There is no way. So, out of fear, out of curiosity, I'm like, you know what? Let me go to the ER. We go to the ER. They do an EKG, they do a CAT scan. Everything was fine, not urgent. You're fine. Get out of here. Go home. Take care of it somewhere else. Okay, no problem. two
Mhm.
days later, I go to the ENT. And by the way, I am so specific about getting all these medical things done quickly that I got more out the way in the first couple of days and weeks than probably anyone else through a span of 6 months. So I went to
Wow.
an ENT, did so many things, the maneuver, checked my ears, put the goggles on me, you name it, I've had the test. And I've had it more than once with multiple ENTs. I went to several audiologists. I went to 3 or 4 neurologists, 2 or 3 cardiologists. I went to physician assistants. I went to pulmonologists. I met every single doctor you can imagine. I remember walking into a ENT doctor, and I remember walking in with a stack of results that were perfectly in order. I give it to him. He goes, "What's this?" I tell him, "Those are all the tests that I've done." He goes, "So what do you want me to do?" He goes, "What do you want me to do? You've done it all."
Mhm.
And I'll be honest with you, at that point, it was a pretty bad time. It's because I thought, well, how long is this going to last? What is this? Nobody can give me an answer, but what is this? And I couldn't figure it out until I came across your channel.
Mm. Oh my
I
gosh.
couldn't.
I know people watching this are resonating deeply with that experience of just feeling like completely hopeless,
Oh,
no
yeah.
answers, did they give you anything? I mean, did they say, here, you're just anxious, take this medicine, or
So
did they give you any
they
ideas?
usually they chalked it off to two things. They chalked it
Mhm.
off to post COVID, or they
Oh,
chalked it off
okay.
to anxiety.
Okay.
Now, okay, granted, maybe anxiety, but I didn't think so. I know myself, and
Mhm.
I know that this wasn't anxiety. I know for a
Mhm.
fact it wasn't anxiety. And
Mhm.
then I know for a fact that it wasn't anything related to post COVID because number one, I never had COVID. Luckily
Mhm.
enough, I've had several tests confirmed I never had
Mhm.
COVID. So I
Mhm.
knew that it couldn't be those things. So after searching deep into the internet, coming across so many different variations of what this can possibly be, I stumbled upon your channel, and that's
Mhm.
kind of where everything began to go uphill for me.
Mm. Which video did you see first? Do you remember?
I remember it was a somatic tracking video. I believe it was a
Really?
somatic tracking, and then there was one where it has a red dizzy background on the left side. I know all of them,
A red
and
dizzy background. I'm like, I don't
it
even show.
it's the one with it's the one with, I think it's the one with the clocks in the background. If you freeze frame it before you press play, there's one with the clocks on it. But that's probably the one I was like, I think she knows what she's talking about. And then I
Mm.
watch another one. I'm like, that kind of sounds like what I have. And then you burn through all the videos, and then you realize, like, oh my God, I feel like this individual understands what no one in the past or in the present who has seen me understands or comprehends the way that you do.
Mm.
Clearly, it was one of those things where they didn't have the answers. They would just chalk it off to anxiety or post-COVID. Easy to do because it wasn't
Right.
physically wrong with me. I
Right.
remember walking into, it was an audiologist, and they did these tests on me where they would like have me get up, sit down, and put pressures on me and all these things. I walk in like, we've never had a test this perfect. And I'm like, deep down inside, I'm like, just tell me something is wrong with you. Point
Yeah.
to it, be like, that's it right there. This is what you need. Take it. 2 weeks later, you'll be fine. I remember walking into the ER one time, and I was there a week before, and it got a little worse. So this is all January-ish, February-ish, right? In the very
Mhm.
beginning, I did all this. I got it all out the way very quickly. And
Which
I
is also a
remember
testament to just how driven and stressed out you were, right? I mean,
I was,
that's not normal.
it's not, it was basically to the point where I remember the doctor that walked in. I remember his face. He walks in, he goes, "You were here last week. They did a CAT scan on you. You're fine." I go, yeah, I'm fine. He goes, "So what are you here for?" I still feel lightheaded. And then he goes, "I see they didn't do a CAT scan with the dye. And they said that, you know what, this sounds like you might have a slight rupture in one of your arteries here, and
Oh,
it's spilling blood into your the rest of your body. That's why it's not going fully the way that it's supposed to in your head." And as crazy as it sounds, in the back of my mind, I asked him, I said, "Is it bad? Is it dangerous?" He goes, "It's pretty bad, but it's fixable with surgery." In the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, let that be it. Let that be. Can you imagine how crazy it sounds to want one of your arteries to be slightly torn so the blood would be spilling? That's how crazy and desperate I was. And
I hear this from people.
because when you don't know what
Yeah.
it is, you'll latch on to anything. You will
Mhm.
latch on to anything. And that's what I was doing. I was latching on to anything from MRIs, CAT scan, spine, anything you could imagine. I've done more radiation than a nuclear bomb. I promise you, I've done it all. I I felt like I would have lit up at the radiation facility if you would have seen how much I would have done. It was insane. It was insane. Too much
Mm,
for anyone.
mm.
Didn't get what I wanted.
You didn't get the answers. So
Didn't get
can
them.
you tell me what was life like there at the, because you're describing kind of this, the tests are all done, there are zero answers, and you're just kind of left with these symptoms. So what's life
I'll
like
tell
on the
you.
daily?
So I'll tell you. I remember going to this to physical therapy about 5 minutes from my house, and obviously I wasn't comfortable driving. So I had, for instance, my mom drove me that particular day.
Mhm.
Now, keep in mind the things that I used to do in the boxing ring, the way that the movement, the speed at which you move, the moving around, and then in between you would do this and that. It was chaotic, chaotic. You can imagine. I
Mhm.
remember doing these things where she would have me walk on a straight line and look left and right, and I wasn't able to. And then my mom was sitting there, and when the PT helped me as I stumbled, she goes, "If you would have seen what he does at the gym, you would understand that this cannot be the same person." She tells her the exact same words,
Mm.
and deep down inside, I'm like, that hurts. That hurts. I remember where there was one or two occasions where it was so bad I couldn't walk to the bathroom 15 feet away. I had to have help there. It was pretty bad. It was the first time where I felt completely and utterly disappointed in my body. I
Mhm.
felt I felt disappointment in which way? I looked at it as I invest in you, I expect a certain type of return on my investment. I didn't get that from you. I didn't. I got let down, disappointment, a lack of control, right? You completely turned my world upside down.
Mhm.
Why? I gave you everything you wanted. At the gym, great shape, not overweight, you eat healthy, you don't smoke, you don't drink. Why? Why? It was
Mhm.
like that question from well, what was the movie we always talk about? The Notebook, where he goes,
Why?
"Why? Why? What do you want? What do
What
you
do you
want?"
want?
So I felt as though it was just me asking that question over and over again. What do you want? And I felt like I wasn't getting any answers.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was you would wake up in the morning, and while the wife was home, you would kind of rush to shower, brush your teeth, and then you would sit down on the sofa, sit there for hours and hours. And it would be on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute worst, where I would just be sitting like this the whole time. It would just fluctuate for months on the high, medium. And then maybe some days it would just kind of taper down a little bit, enough for me to feel alive.
Mhm.
It was horrendous. It was bad. I mean, the types of symptoms, if you're ready, I can start
Go
listing
for
them
it.
off.
Yeah.
I mean, the swaying, the swaying, the swaying was one of them. Brain fog. I had an outer body experience, like I wasn't inside my own body. Like, for example, when I would shower, when the water would hit me, the water would feel weird. It
Mhm.
wasn't, it was like an outer body experience. The lightheadedness was 24/7, right? The
Mhm.
visual sensations of too much in my surrounding, that persisted pretty heavily, to the point where there was a fear of going into supermarkets, drugstores, pharmacies, you name it. I mean, I
Mhm.
was I was homebound. Um, the bloating, the boating sensation, where, for instance, where I would pick up my feet, just leave them there, and they would feel like they were swaying or just came off of a boat. And the
Mhm.
list goes on and on. And it was just the same one cycling over and over again. It's
Mhm.
the same thing. It was uncomfortable, to say the least.
Yeah, and it
This
sounds
was
like it was 24/7. It wasn't
it
just movement
was
provoked. Even if you were sitting down, you got no relief.
it very, very rarely did I ever get any form of relief. And my relief was it coming down from an 8 to a 6. Like
Mhm.
that was my relief. I always looked forward to going to sleep. And I remember waking up every single morning and I'm like, okay, it's gone today. Today it's gone. I open it up. No, it's still here.
Mm.
It's still here. And then it would pretty much be a question of, yes, it's here. How bad is it when it's here? Is it up here or is it slightly less than where it was yesterday? And it was just what it was, a guessing game. I had no control over it. And
Mhm.
that's what was killing me, because I went from doing a million and one things every single day
Mhm.
to just being home, to just being home. And this was the kind of person where I felt as though I was caged in one
Mhm.
particular location and I wasn't going anywhere. And it was killing me, because that is not the kind of person I am. It's not. It's not. Outdoors, gym, boxing, all over the place. You need me to drop you off? No problem. I'm the one dropping you off. You need me to
Mhm.
give you a ride somewhere, pick you up? I'm doing it. Right.
Mhm.
And then it got to the point where every single person who used to call upon me for help for driving and whatnot, I became the person who began calling upon, drive me here, drive me there. Right.
Mhm.
I remember up to a certain point, I've never taken an Uber. I've never taken a Lyft. Never. And I would be like, guys, come on. Uber, Lyft, like, come on. And no, I became like the Uber king.
Mm.
I became the Uber king where I wasn't comfortable enough. My car was just sitting there. I had to get rid of my car because it was just collecting dust. And it hurt. It hurt. It hurt because you didn't know how long it was going to last. You didn't know
Mhm.
what it was.
Mhm.
You didn't know why it was here. So all these questions that I had, they weren't being answered. They
Mm.
were not being answered. And then
Yeah.
interestingly enough, I remember slightly stumbling upon something that I had no idea what it was, but it was triple PD. I know that it was that. And when I stumbled upon it before I came across your channel, I read that it was one of those things where it doesn't go away. You
Of
begin to read
course.
things,
Yes.
and then they give you the symptoms. You begin to say, wow, that kind of reminds me of what I have. And then you begin the negative reviews of what it is. And I'm thinking to myself, there's just no way. There's no way. I said anything but this, because if you tell me that a little lightheadedness would do this to a person, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. I remember friends of mine in a respectful but jokeful kind of manner to kind of boost up my mood and my morale. I remember they would say, you're complaining of lightheadedness. Like, this is what we drink alcohol for. And then and my response would always be the same. It would be, yeah, but you know why you're lightheaded, and it goes away in then 10, 15, 20 minutes. Mine's been here for weeks and then months. And then probably I think at that year mark is when it began to get better, after you and I had started talking, and the mindset shifted from where
Mhm.
I was to where I am now. I would say it's completely night and day.
Mm.
Completely night and day.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to talk about that, but I have a surprise question for you.
Yeah.
Question, when you came
Okay.
across my channel, so it sounds like you've watched a lot of the videos, and you heard me talking about the personality things, the perfectionists, the conscientious people, the go-to people, the super driven people. What was that like for you to hear that?
I felt like you were talking to me. I felt like when you were looking into the camera, I was the one holding the camera. I felt like I was the one and you were talking to me, because I'll be honest with you. it- I wanted to do everything. Pick up the kids, drop off the kids. I'll drive here.
Sure.
I'll drive there. I'll do everything. Drive you to the airport, Uber? No, no, no. I'll drive you. Right.
Mhm.
I was the guy. I didn't know how to say no. Right. And then I realized that going forward, no is a complete sentence. It doesn't require any further explanation. That's it. Can you go? No. It is a complete sentence. It doesn't require any further detail. It's that simple as that. It's just a complete sentence, that one word. And I'll tell you, it's when you stop fighting it and start accepting it, the mindset begins to shift. And if it wasn't for you, I have it written down here, because a lot of it changed because of what you said to me, and it was one simple thing. When we first started talking,
Which
I think
was when?
it was probably sometime in January-ish, like around
Mhm.
that area.
Is when we started working together one-on-one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I remember you kind of told me move around, right? Because whenever it would kick in, I'd lay down, and I'd lay down. What would I do? I would focus on the sensations and
Mhm.
amplify them more.
Mhm.
Little did I know I was making it worse, right? Looking back, hindsight's 2020. I didn't know that that's what was happening. Lay
Mhm.
down, uncomfortable. All you do is you focus on it.
Mhm.
And I told you how much I really wanted to get into boxing, how much I wanted to go back to the gym. And my fear deep down inside was, well, what if what if I go and it gets worse? What if I do it and it gets worse, right? Because that fear is still there.
Mhm.
So you'll be surprised. You told me to go to the gym, and instead of going to the gym, I ordered a tonal for like
Mhm.
$6,000. I literally had it installed in my basement, and I converted what was my kids' area, a little portion of it, just because of you and your advice, which worked out tremendously, into a gym. I literally converted it into a gym. And I'll be honest with you, that was the changing point of everything. It
Mhm.
was showing my body that you are still fully capable of doing everything. Physically, there's nothing wrong with you, nothing at all. It was just basically an event. And there was a an interview you did with I forgot his name. This was about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. You put it on the press, but you said something in there, and it was so profound. I had to rewind and watch it twice over. And I'll
Mm.
tell you what you said. You said that your nervous system remained on high alert for such a long time without you knowing it, that eventually it gave up. Like it just caved in. Boom, something happened. And I'll tell you what my epiphany or nervous system event was. Looking back at it, when that incident happened back in January 4th, every single day, every single day after January 4th, I was like, it's going to happen again today. It's going to happen again today. Today is a day. I'm alone. It's going to happen right now. Right. So I was psychologically psyching myself up for that event to occur when
Mhm.
nothing was really wrong with me. That could have been anything.
Mhm.
Nobody has any explanation to what it was. I don't either. But every single day up until January 16th, of when the nurses just collapsed and said, yeah, I had enough of this high alertness. Stop trying to look for something. I remember I drove out one time, and there's two ways to get to the gym at that point. So January 4th, it happened. I think 4 days later, I went to the gym, and I remember how silly this is, because in order to get to the gym, there's two ways to get there. The quick way, which is the highway, which I used to go in the evening, empty. We take the local streets, stoplight, red light. It's going to take you 10 minutes longer, completely out the way, but you're not on the highway. So if anything happens, you're on the street, no need to pull
Mhm.
over anywhere. And I remember I was like, I'm not taking the highway. I'm going to take the side streets. And that's kind of where it began. It's like these limitations of, well, I'm not going to go there alone. Why don't you come with me? I'm going to
Mhm.
take the side street instead of the highway. And I feel as though it remained on high alert, on really high alert for such a long period of time, that eventually it said, you know what? We're done. Boom, here you go, activate.
Mhm.
And from that point on, it was downhill.
Mhm.
January, 2021.
Mm. 22,
Horrible. No,
21,
this 21,
21, and then
21.
22 is when we wait,
22
no,
is when
it's
we started
23.
working. 23 is when we started
23.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. So this started in 21, and
21.
yeah, and January. So it was January
January
22
2022,
when this
but it
happened. Yes.
but
Okay.
it kicked in. All these
Yes.
sensations
In
began in
22.
21.
Yes. Yes. Okay. That makes sense. So, okay, you're landing on some really important points here. So I would say, just based on what you've said so far, that the focus of our work together initially has been, how do we correct that nervous system response? And so much of that has been just you proving to yourself experientially, not just cognitively, because you've done that before. You'd already read all my stuff. You'd watched all my videos. You even worked with a cognitive behavioral therapy type
Yeah.
therapist. And you managed to change a lot of your thoughts about it, but your body didn't believe you. And we've talked about this also. Your nervous system does not speak English,
Yeah.
right? It just
Right.
doesn't. Your nervous system speaks body experience.
And
So
I didn't know this. So I
yes.
was trying to fool myself when it wasn't
Mhm.
working.
Yeah, it wasn't working. Yes.
It was not working.
Yeah. So for you, you had to experience that it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about that, but I'm going to just add on here maybe a little teaser that the focus of our work now is transitioning to what may have set your nervous system up to do
Yeah.
that in the first place, right? So not just because ultimately you're way better, you're almost fully recovered now.
Yeah.
And we'll talk
I would
about that.
say.
Almost fully recovered now. So for that last little bit, what we're looking at is how do we untangle what made your nervous system decide to do that in the first place?
Yeah.
But so much of the recovery has just been proving to yourself that it's really okay, that you're safe, that
And
proving to your nervous system that you're safe.
I'll be honest with you. If I'll tell you, if it wasn't for you telling me to do the things that I did,
Mhm.
I would probably be in the same boat. Most
Mhm.
likely, whenever it would get bad, I would lay down. Now, if I feel it, interestingly enough, anytime I'm doing anything physical, I feel 100%, 110%. I'm at the
Mhm.
gym working out, incredible. I feel amazing.
Yeah.
It's my hit. Whenever I'll do boxing, which we started, well, we could talk about that too. We started
Oh,
about
we're
three
going to
weeks
talk about
ago.
that. Yeah.
You feel amazing, and to me, the end goal was I knew that if I can get to the point where I am doing the boxing sessions,
Mhm.
it's amazing. I remember that there's a specific way to wrap your arms when you do the boxing sessions, and I remember waiting 10 minutes before my boxing coach came to my house for the first time, and I remember about to put into YouTube how to properly wrap, because it's been a year and a half, how to properly wrap your arm, because I forgot. And I'll never forget this. And I mentioned it. I'm like, what am I going to do? I have to Google it. I got to do trial and error. Left hand is different from the right hand. And I remember as I log into YouTube, I get a phone call from an employee of mine. And I get so tangled up in the conversation with the employee that I forget that I began wrapping my arms, and I wrapped them in the correct order. And I was like looking at them. I was like, that is, I didn't, it was almost as though it was second nature. You wrapped it
Mhm.
all around, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I wrapped it right. I'm like, oh my God, this feels so amazing, because I thought I was just going to be sitting there for 15 minutes trying to figure it out. But the body remembered. The body
Yes.
remembered.
Yes. Yes. Well, but beyond that, I mean, that's a beautiful illustration of your body remembering things, but also
Yeah.
the stuff you're doing right now, it is the world's best indication that this is a nervous system error. And I know you know this, but I'm saying this for people watching, right? Please, Mark, describe to them what kinds of physical activities you're engaging in right now.
Okay. So I went from, it's interesting to even talk about this, but I went from literally being on the couch, and I would refer to myself as a couch potato. I gained about 10 pounds, maybe a little bit more. I didn't like the way that the shirts sat on me.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, here I am. I'm gonna have to go up a size bigger. And I didn't like it. I said, you know what? I had enough of this. And I went from barely being able to do anything, missing all occasions, all birthdays, not coming out of the house alone, certainly not driving, to 30 to 45-minute boxing sessions, to the part where we're sparring. And it is the most incredible sensation, because if you can see the way that we are moving left, right, under, over, this is it just a slight movement back in the day, just to do this would would require one of those. Back in
Mhm.
the day, I would move my head a little bit. I'd be like, oh my God, hold on, give me a few minutes. But now it's nonstop, and I enjoy it. It's physical contact. It's absolutely, the way that I look at it is, anytime you sweat, it's my definition of fat crying. So my fat is in tears in terms of just the amount of things that we do. We will stay here for about 45 minutes, and it's absolute mitt work, it's body contact, it's high intensity programs, it's the gym afterwards. It's the biggest gratification because most people will gas out. They will gas out. It's anybody would, right? And I remember when I first started 2 months ago. I mean, I couldn't last through the first round. I
Mhm.
would just gas out, done, right? And then second round, and we built up to it. And now we got to the point where not only do we finish 8 rounds, but we finish 8 rounds and then we do sparring sessions. I mean, just to give you an indication of what sparring feels like compared to mitt work, I'll give you an example. I can go 8 rounds of mitt work, but I can go 30 seconds of sparring.
Mhm.
So the amount of physical exertion that this requires, I remember I would just stand there and the sweat is in my, most people would think it's gross, but to me, it's the biggest gratification. It's just absolutely so rewarding. It's so rewarding. And then the gym every single day. I remember there's a tonal app that I ordered, and I just wanted to show you how crazy I am. The tonal app tracks
And
all of
just
your
for context, Tonal
yeah,
is it's like a home gym. It's a super high tech home gym
yeah,
essentially that lets you do strength training. So just so
correct.
people to know, it's not like a Peloton or something like that. It's
No,
for strength
so
training. Yeah.
yeah, so LeBron endorses it. So, like for
Mhm.
example, if people Google TONAL,
Mhm.
tonal,
Mhm.
they will be able to see it. It's incredible. It's basically the smartest high tech thing. And just so you understand how crazy I am, it keeps track of everything. Everybody who has a tonal account keeps track of everything. If you pay attention, there are 70,000 tonal users.
Mhm.
As you can
Oh
see,
yeah.
70,000.
Yeah.
Out of those 70,000 tonal users, I am in 1600th place
Right.
in terms of activity. So you can imagine I outperformed roughly
Right.
about 64,000 people.
And this is someone who in December was almost incapable of doing things like going into restaurants and moving. I just want
Yeah,
to make that clear to people. We are doing this interview in April of 2023. So
yeah.
in I mean, you've been doing these workouts for a little while, but here we
Since
are in 4
February.
months. Yeah. But
Since
so in
February.
2 months, you were
Yeah.
back to doing some of those things. In 4 months, you are regaining levels of former conditioning. You are incredibly active. You're able to do all those things that you couldn't do before. So that
I'll give
is
I'll give you an example. I'll raise you one better. I'll raise you one better. My wife's cousin, he's a runner. He's a
mhm,
runner. And this is probably maybe November or December of last year. So 6 months ago, give or take,
mhm,
before I started working with you. I remember me telling him that running or jogging compared to the high intensity of boxing and sparring didn't compare.
mhm,
And I remember him saying, "No, stop. Whenever you're available, whenever you get back to normal, I'll come with you." And now he overheard that I'm substantially almost at 100%, that I'm
mhm.
sparring every single day. Now he heard, and now I can't get him in here because he knows that I will prove him wrong in terms
If
of
he's watching this.
I think he knows who he is, and he owes me a boxing or a sparring session, but he's not coming. He's not coming. He
Mhm.
knows who he is. He
Yeah.
knows who he is. It's incredible.
So, okay. So we've talked about the importance of movement. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
that is so clear. But let's look under the hood a little bit. So, what do
Yeah.
you, beyond the actual movement itself, what do you think is going on underneath the hood that's really made this change?
That's made the change for the better.
Yeah.
I think it's the reassurance that there's nothing wrong with me.
Mhm,
Before I started working with you,
mhm,
I was always in the back of my mind where they missed something. They missed
mhm,
something. Something is wrong. They missed something.
mhm,
And it's gonna be one of those situations where maybe tomorrow I'll wake up, it's gone, or maybe it's gonna be here for the rest of my life.
mhm,
Right. In the back of my mind, I was thinking they missed something. Something has to be wrong. They either overlooked this or they didn't catch it while I had it at my peak or something like that. And it was a tumbling effect of self-doubt, of
Mhm.
self-doubt.
Yeah. You're getting at something really, really deep here. So it's not, I'm going to use a word other than reassurance. I think what you're on to something here about the connection piece. So not to
Yeah.
say that you didn't get reassurance from me too, but one of the things that you and I have been talking about is the fact that when there's just kind of a general lack of safety, that's when the nervous system goes crazy. Whenever there's some like uncertainty or lack of control, then the nervous system can feel really
Control was a very, very big piece for me. So I mean, you and I work together. Control for me is essentially everything,
Mhm.
because that's kind of how I run my day to day. It's how I run
Right.
my operations. Control is essential, and this is why I told you in the beginning. Control began to look like as though it was an illusion
Right.
to me.
Right. It was a big wake up call though, and
Yeah.
that's why they're under the hood. Some of the things that I would venture to say have been changing too is that not that you're conducting your life differently necessarily, like you're still a very high intensity person, you're still a high achieving person, but it seems to me that also you're starting to become a little bit more okay with the gray area, with the fact that there truly isn't a black and white control or no control situation, that sometimes there is a little bit of not sure, a little bit of uncertainty, and that
Yeah.
you have to tolerate it.
And you know what also helped as I was kind of recovering? What also helped in the process of recovery is when your nervous system is on high alert, you assume everything feels weird. So there's been
It's true.
several instances where I think I've told you, I'll give you two just to kind of stand out as an example. We
Mm-hmm.
were driving, my mom was behind the wheel, and it was very windy. You know where
I
I'm going
remember
with
this
this.
story. Yes.
So we're driving, and it was kind of she was on the highway, she was making a slight right, and there was a couple of bumps on the road, and the car, instead of being bumpy, it was kind of like a boat. It tumbled, right,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the way it was. And I automatically grabbed the car seat, not the car seat, the car handle. I'm like, oh my God, that feels so weird, oh my God. And then my mom turns around, she goes, wow, what a weird feeling that was. And I'm like, you felt that too? She goes, yeah, so weird, it felt like you were on a boat. And I relaxed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like a relax, because I'm like, okay, so it's not just me. That's normal. Relax, calm down. And then like another one where there's an overpass, a little bridge underneath the two trains for the LIRR. And you're basically right over the trains. It's an open thing. The kids love to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there a little while back. And as you're standing on it, when they go right underneath you, they're very, very close. So, and they travel really fast and the air pushes against it. So if you're looking directly down, it feels weird. So I remember when the train passed by, I was like, oh my God, I have to get out of here. And then before I did that, my wife runs off like shaking. She's like, oh my God, I can't stand that feeling. It feels so weird. And I'm like, so you feel that too? She's like, yeah, so weird. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Another check. It's not just me. So you begin
Mm.
to kind of build these pieces, these puzzles that go in and interlock together, where you assume it feels weird, but it's not. It's not weird. It's just a natural feeling that feels weird when you
Mm-hmm.
experience it.
Right.
So I started to
Right.
look at things that way.
Right. So do you feel like maybe so one of the things that we actually skipped is that you're also part of the group coaching,
Yeah.
and you've been in kind of these groups where we're all kind of talking about people. I mean, we're all talking about very similar things. Many of the people are going through some of the same things you've gone through.
Yeah.
Was that also helpful in helping normalize and kind of reframe some of the experiences?
I'll be honest with you. Once you and I started talking, what has changed was the perception of how you view things. There was a time where I was looking for a quick fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give me something, find something wrong with me, and tell me that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize that thank God it's not that. Thank God you're healthy. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with you. It's
There's nothing
just
wrong with
that
you.
you've overloaded your system.
Mm-hmm.
It's on hyper alert. Calm down, relax, and it will go away. It
Hmm.
will resume back to where it needs to be in order to let what we used to call, or what we call the scanner,
Hmm.
relax. And
Yes.
I feel like it's been on such high alert. And now I would say it's probably 10% of where it used to be. So essentially at 90% on a day to day.
Hmm.
And when I'm working out, when I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm 110%. I am
Hmm.
110%. It's absolutely amazing. And
Hmm.
my coach today, he goes, what I want you to do is there's a huge hill up about 2 blocks from my
I
house.
already don't like this.
He goes,
Sounds terrible.
do me a favor. He goes, do me a favor, start running up and down that hill every single day.
Oof.
And my goal has always been to get to 1 hour boxing sessions, not just purely, but 1 hour of physical high intensity movement to the
Hmm.
point where it doesn't have to be boxing for 1 hour, but we can
Hmm.
box for 30 minutes, spar for 10, 15, and do
Hmm.
some, high intensity cardio afterwards.
Hmm.
Because I am a firm believer that in life, the difference between the winners and the losers is that the winners anticipate and the losers react. And I know if I let myself go physically, it's going to be a tumbling effect going
Hmm.
forward. And that's why I like to stay ahead of it physically. I want to be the dad that plays soccer with his kids when they're 14. I want to coach the soccer team, God willing. In September, by the way, I
Hmm.
signed up. I'm going to be coaching, which I missed last year because of the whole situation. So, I mean, I'm aiming to be one of those people that while all the other dads are sitting down, I'm running around playing soccer or football with all the kids. That to me is gratifying.
Right.
That I look for that.
And what we're working on is making sure you can do that while not getting yourself back into the situation that you were
The
in
push and pull,
2021.
the
Yeah.
push and pull, the push
Yeah.
and pull.
And this is something that we're actively working on right now. And I'm wondering, before we close, so we've talked a lot about movement, you've talked a lot about mindset, you've talked a lot about kind of experiencing, getting reassurance, starting to say no a little more often, or a lot more often, kind
Yeah.
of realizing that this was putting extra strain on you and that you can still be awesome and high achieving. And even if you're saying no sometimes. So all of those are really valuable things. I'm curious, if do you remember a few weeks ago when your symptoms suddenly went away when we were working with each other? Do you
I
remember that?
remember exactly what we were
Yeah.
talking about.
I wonder, and of course you don't have to share any personal details that you'd rather not, but do you want to share a little bit more about what we were working on there and kind
So
of.
yeah, so it was basically a way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it
Mhm.
was share. Feel free to share all the
Mhm.
details because
Mhm.
I like to be as open as I can, just to make sure
Mhm.
that there's anyone that we can help.
Yeah,
It would be my pleasure.
and we will. Yeah.
Essentially, it was connecting with myself and trying to figure out that whenever I would feel aggravated, it
Mhm.
felt as though I was being aggravated towards the symptoms.
Mhm.
And then you have to understand that the more you become aggravated towards the symptoms, the more aggravating it becomes.
Mhm.
But when you realize it's okay to be aggravated at the symptoms, because I mean, who wants to feel the symptoms?
Mhm.
You begin to relax. I remember you and I were sitting there, and I kind of felt a little bit, and I don't think much of it when it comes up. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it doesn't stop me from doing
Sure.
anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if I feel a little bit, my boxing session starts, it's gone.
Right.
It's gone.
Right.
It's
Right.
gone. If there's
Right.
any proof of anything that it's nothing structural,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it.
I always I
Yeah.
always told my wife, I said, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen here. It's not gonna happen when I'm
Yeah.
sitting on the couch.
That's right.
And I remember I connected, and it almost felt like you'd given me some magic pill through the computer where it shut off. It shut
Mhm.
off, and I
Yeah.
felt amazing. It was the first time in my life where I actually genuinely felt speechless. I didn't know what to say except thank you.
It was awesome and very funny. For those of you meeting Mark for the first time here, Mark is never speechless, ever. Not in my time knowing him. I've never known Mark to be speechless. So it was very gratifying and exciting to see
Imagine how
that.
I felt. Imagine how I felt. I did not have anything to say except I think I told you thank you like 80 times in
Yeah.
that 1 minute or something, and to the point where you're like, enough, thank you. You're welcome. It was
well,
it was amazing.
and so I'm going to describe kind of what you said or reiterate it so people understand what we were working on. So Again, all of the things that you've done so far have gotten you to where you are. So I've already told you, Mark, I could just say, okay, cool, we'll cut you loose and you'd be fine. And with time, the symptoms will go away and you're going to be 100%, no problem. But we're still working together now with a lot less urgency because you're feeling great, but we're still working together now because we're trying to make sure that your nervous system it doesn't get into this state again. And we've been talking about that in many different ways. But on that day, you were kind of struggling to think positive. And this is something I see people do, especially when they've seen a lot of videos on my channel. They're like, oh, if I'm angry and frustrated with the symptoms, it's going to make things worse. So I got to just push that frustration out of my mind and not let myself be frustrated. So there's this kind of internal battle. Like I'm both frustrated.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated about this. I'm trying to think positive, but I am frustrated. I'm aggravated, and just kind of like it got really activating. And you weren't feeling as great physically as you wanted to feel. So I basically just asked you to show some compassion to yourself for being frustrated, that it's maybe okay to feel a little bit frustrated. And I know this sounds like a very simple thing, but it wasn't me like, okay, Mark, let's talk about feeling frustrated. I asked you to go into your body, and I'm going to have more content on my channel about this soon, but as we talked about earlier, your nervous system doesn't speak English. You can't talk to it in words. You need to go into your body and use your body. And I asked you to find the frustration in your body.
Yeah,
and I asked you to be with the frustration and not try to fight it. And I asked all this other stuff if it would be willing to just allow you to feel whatever frustration felt like. And then you had this moment, you could just see the light bulb go off,
that's exactly
in
what
a
it
cartoon. And suddenly you were like, oh, it's trying to help me feel better. And then boom, your symptoms went away.
And then if you know me, my form of self-compassion was taking a bat to my knees, and saying, well, hold on a second, you didn't last 8 rounds today. Okay,
Right.
great. Tomorrow's going to be 10. Right. So
Right.
it was a form of physical punishment in terms of what it is that you wanted. But when you start to practice self-compassion and you start to look at it from that perspective, it's totally different. It's totally different.
It is
completely different. And that's kind of how I've been looking at it from that point on.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had lots of discussions about how seeing things that way doesn't have to decrease your performance. On the contrary, a little bit of self-compassion often actually decreases the stress and puts you closer to kind of that optimal performance. We've talked a lot about the performance intensity curve, which I talked to you a million times, but for the sake of people who don't know what I'm talking about, the more intensity you put into something, the more your performance goes up, but only to a point. And then your performance starts to tank.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how self-compassion can kind of nudge you back toward optimal performance. So that's kind of the future direction.
So to me, it's interesting because everything that I do now, I look at it as, do I want to do it now? Why am I doing it? Okay, great. So today I'm going to do it. And then there's been
mission accomplished.
There's been days where, like I just said, I'm not feeling like it. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I remember there was times where people let's go out today. I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to go. I don't want, before the talking me into it would work. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to go. I just throw in this, I'm not feeling well. And there you go. That's it. I have a headache, too much work. I'll find any excuse just to not go if I don't want to go. Or if I'm too tired, my arm hurts or the muscle is still sore. If I don't have to work out, I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to work out. I look at it as that one day is not going to change anything. In the grand scheme of 365 days, it's not going to change anything. So like I said, no is a complete sentence.
Look at how things have changed. I just want people to see, here you are going back to your peak physical performance. And that's why, by the way, everyone, this is part 1. We're going to be doing
You're going to get the video. You're going to get the video.
We're going to get a video, a clip of the boxing.
You will get the video. I promise you. And then I wish I had one where I needed help to walk to the bathroom. I'm laughing at it now, but it was
horrendous.
It was night and day. It was night and day.
Unfortunately, anyone watching this or hearing this interview has had that experience or something close to it. So I think everyone here can relate to that. But the reason that this is part 1 is because I think it's very important for people to see you keep going to peak performance,
Yeah.
but also for people to hear the shift I mean, there's already a gigantic shift in mindset happening. And I
Yeah.
think with a little bit more time, it's going to be really clear. Like the contrast between who you were in mid 2021 and who you are now is going to be really clear.
You know what's interesting? I'll tell you something on that note. If you look back at everything I've ever done, and anytime I've set a time frame on something, like I
Mhm.
told you that, in January, and listen, we didn't know. It could have taken me a year. It could have taken me a week. Like when you look at the spectrum of the recoveries,
So
you
yeah,
never really
so
know.
wide. Hmm.
They're so wide. I remember
Hmm.
it's Mark Hines, was it Mark
Hmm.
some, right?
Hmm.
He recovered in a week or something, like 14
Yeah, it
days.
was like a week. Yeah.
Right, it was like a
Yeah.
week. So I mean, so you
Yeah.
didn't really know, but what I did tell you, what I told you is before the summer. And
Mhm.
I told you that I was definitely going to be doing a video. I feel completely honored. And I told you that you're going to be getting a video. Once I feel like I'm at 110% over there, back to kind of where I was,
Mhm.
you will certainly be getting a video. And then you can use that to show people that when you think differently, things begin to change,
Mhm.
right? There's a saying. I hope I don't butcher it, and it's so true. The saying is, when you begin to change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah.
So that's kind of what I started doing.
And my contribution is when you honor your feelings, it also makes it a lot easier to change the way you think.
Yeah, that one
We're
was a
still
big
working
one
on
for
that
me.
one.
That one was a big one. It took a lot because I wasn't a feelings kind of guy. So I remember in the beginning where it was like connect to your feelings. But I'm not connecting to my
Why?
feelings.
But you trusted me, so you
Yeah.
just went with it. You're like, Doc, whatever you tell me to do, I'm a fast learner. I'll do it, even though I don't know why the hell you're telling me to do
I,
this.
I, I listen, I'll be honest with you. I would sit there sometimes and be like, my feelings? What feelings?
I
Like,
don't
what
have
is
any
that? Like,
feelings.
like I don't have any feelings. Like you're not hurting me emotionally. I don't need to connect spiritually. Like I'm good. Like nothing affects me. And
Mhm.
then I let you take the helm, and this is where I am today.
Hell yeah. Amazing.
I can't wait to watch the actual video when you post it. That's what
Yeah.
I can. That's
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I can't wait to see
Well,
as well.
my plan with the boxing video is to like
Yeah.
insert that at the beginning of part 2 of this interview and be like, "Oh, do you remember Mark? Here he is." And then we can kind of like
Yeah.
do some commentary on it. We'll watch it together.
And if I can say, that movement that I started doing was strictly because you told me to do it.
Mhm.
Besides that, I was whenever I would feel bad, I would lay down.
Mhm.
Right. But I literally had so much faith in you that without any hesitation, I ordered the
Mhm.
tonal machine, spent a lot of money. Then it got me exactly where I wanted to be, and that's physically moving. Right,
Right.
everything else felt dull in comparison. When you can do these things and you're thinking about, oh, wait, hold on, I wasn't able to move my head back once. I remember just doing this, like that was bad. That
Mhm.
was bad. And then now it's like, good luck. Good
Mhm.
luck. It's a completely different now in terms of where I was physically compared to where I was before I began this
Mhm.
again. I would say I'm probably at about 70% at the performance wise of where I was
For
before that
boxing.
happened, of boxing,
Of
before it
boxing.
happened.
Just so we're clear, we're not talking about symptoms right now. We're
No,
talking about boxing.
I'm
Yeah.
virtually almost 100% all the
Mhm.
time. But
Mhm.
in terms of the performance with boxing, so I
Mhm.
started about 2 months ago, and
Mhm.
before I ended it, compared to 2 months ago when I started, I'm at about 70%. So I
Mhm.
can't wait to show you that one. It takes a little bit of time, but I can't
Yes.
wait to show you the 100%. And then anybody who wants to know what that feels like to physically be able to do all these things, I would recommend try it and see how it works for you, because for me it worked out amazing.
And for those of you who don't have access to something like a tonal, do not worry. I mean, really, we're talking any kind of movement that you
Anything.
enjoy, but especially strength training. And I know many people don't have, again, access to fancy equipment, but even a couple dumbbells, or
Yeah.
following strength training videos at home, or going to a gym if that's possible. I know some people, it's just too much right now, but get moving.
I remember I used to start each boxing session back in right before the symptoms hit, with about 10 minutes of jump rope, right? And
Mhm.
then it got to the point where the jump rope was doing fancy things, one hand,
Mhm.
one over, twice under, the one leg, the crossover. And when I first picked up the jump rope, you know, 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago, I couldn't go more than a couple of seconds without, constantly stopping it. And it was becoming frustrating. I was like, oh no, come on. I look at my video, I'm like, okay, we got to get back there. And then practice, 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 and movement reassurance. You get acclimated to it. And
Mhm.
it's incredible because the human body, if you allow it to, deep down
Mhm.
inside, it'll get you what you want.
Mhm.
Eventually, it'll get you what you want. And I told my coach the same thing. I said, by the middle of the summer, I told him I have to record a video and I need to be at a certain level of performance where it's basically just flowing effortlessly at that point. And it's going to be one of those things where you'll probably see it if we're on the track that we're on now, probably sometime in June.
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
be, I can't wait. I can't wait.
But I know, but from my perspective, I'm like, I'm not concerned about the timeline because I know it's going to happen. I mean, I know you want to get back there, but f- for people watching, this is you're going to see a whole variety of stories here. You're going to hear people recovering incredibly fast. You're going to hear
Yeah.
people who go back to like elite levels of fitness. You're going to hear ordinary people who never were into fitness going back to their ordinary lives. The point here is, Mark, you're doing the things that you love again. That's what really matters to me. Whether
Yeah.
it's knitting or boxing or gardening, these are the kinds of stories I want people to hear, because no matter what it is that you love, this, whatever you're experiencing right now, you if you have neural circuit dizziness, you can get back there. It's just going to take some work and some
Yeah.
persistence, but you can get back there.
I agree with you. And here, living proof.
Yeah.
Living
Amen.
proof.
Exactly. Wow. Well, thank you. This was fantastic. As I said, this is only part one. We'll be speaking again for
Oh,
a
for
future
sure.
interview. Yes.
For sure. For sure. Hopefully
Wonderful.
this time it will be in a boxing gym with you in the ring, just
Oh,
looking at me saying, "Oh my God, look at that movement." And it's incredible. I can't
while
wait.
you're also being kind and speaking compassionately to yourself. Come on, we got to
Yes,
throw that in there too.
we have to. We have to.
Yeah.
Like I said, no is a complete. And there's been times where I didn't feel like it, and I said, "Not today."
Mhm. Right.
Thanks to you of
But it
all.
wasn't an avoidance. It was more of a like, I'm taking care of myself thing.
It was an appreciation. It was just knowing when to say, "No, you don't feel like it today. Don't push it. Don't
Yeah.
try to take the hammer to the knees."
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
Well, thank
Thank
you,
you, Mark.
obviously.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
It's
Any
my
final
pleasure.
words of advice to anyone watching?
Yeah, find you sooner. Find
Yeah.
you sooner. That's really it. Just find you sooner. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know where I'd be if I would still if I had not found you, I don't know where I'd be. I'd probably be
Mm.
stuck in the same cycle over and over and over again, trying to chase something that wasn't there.
That just kills me. And that's why I have the YouTube channel, because it's just someone, this stuff isn't rocket science. It's just not, but if you don't know, you don't know. And unfortunately, people are getting the absolute opposite messages from their doctors.
And I'll tell you something, it's not even that, it's also the delivery method that you have,
Mhm.
right? It's everything all combined into one. It's not what you know, it's how you project it to us that
Mhm.
matters. I
Mhm.
mean, it's probably the biggest piece.
It's reassuring, but it's also not, and not dismissive, but it's also practical, right? Like, I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
and
oh,
and
you,
you
you know,
understand, so your approaches with it is probably second to none.
thank you.
Second to none. Thank you. What are you thanking me for? Thank you. Thank you.
My heart is full right now. My heart is full.
Well,
Thank
it, it,
you.
ma- it makes me happy that you take so much pleasure and joy in seeing your patients recover.
Oh, yeah, this is my absolute favorite. These interviews are like what I live
Yeah.
for. This is the best stuff ever. Oh, yeah, totally.
Listen, I can't wait to do part two.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you again. And of course, folks, if you have questions or comments, drop them below.
Yep.
Mark may show up, respond to a couple comments, but I'll respond also. And of course, as always, if you enjoy my channel, please like the video, please share, please subscribe. It makes sure I reach lots of people so you don't have to go through this alone. And yeah, thanks everyone. And thanks,
Thank you,
Mark.
Dr. Yo. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Bye.